Kami and LaFalcha, welcome to Irish Granny Helen. Welcome to Nate, the Third Wish. Thanks, partner, for joining me.
Hi, of course.
There's a moon behind you doing all kinds of bizarre
I know.
manifestations. Yeah. Who's that woman?
Oh, it's based on a project I'm working on for a set of cards.
It's actually beautiful, but I had to give you a hard time. It's
Oh,
absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
yeah,
Same artist, right?
yep.
Okay. Don't say anything more. Okay. So we're doing some little tiny, very brief because we're pressed for time today. All right. So we're doing something funny. Did you prepare your homework?
Well, as always, being the A plus student, as you can imagine, I'm always ready. So do you want to hear my essay or my full dissertations? I mean, I'm so prepared that, you have to pick what you want to
Oh,
see.
okay. So I
And
think
yeah,
I should do a pop quiz, as they say in the United States, and give you an unexpected test here. Are you ready? No. Okay. So in one word, name the biggest idiot of the week. Good luck with that. It's multiple choice. So what do you have a funny story?
Well, it's not funny, but it's something that I thought was kind of interesting, and considering kind of the craziness of the world, it feels a little bit on a different level. So this is a story about Japan's Prince Isahito,
Mhm.
the second in line to the throne, and
Mhm.
he made his debut news conference.
I saw the headlines. I didn't pursue it, so now I'm anxious. Yeah.
He turned 18 and
Yeah.
is becoming the first male royal family member to reach adulthood in Japan. So it's kind of a big deal. Um, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, not being a expert on Japan, but there's also a female in the family that would be more suited compared to the line, but the law said that only males could be selected,
I'm gonna keep
unless
my
the law.
opinion to myself, but go
Yes.
ahead. Yeah.
So it's interesting because the part that I found interesting is that it's very also part of the tradition that the Japanese emperor is not involved in politics, is not involved. It's really important to stay away from the economy, the politics, etc., etc. And so um, it's been it's been usual for them to study a topic that is as far as you can imagine from the government so that they can't be accused of being like involved in the economy, like if there's an economy expert or in business or anything like this. And so the prince Isahito explained that his studies will be focused on dragonflies.
You're kidding, right? You're pulling my
No,
leg.
no, this is gonna be um is dragonflies. He might expand a little bit into other insects because I mean I don't know if you could spend, he's only 18, so that's a lot of years to explore dragonflies. Um, but there's also another interest, so that he has. It's about growing tomatoes and rice on the palace compound. But its main area of focus as the future emperor will be dragonflies.
Oh my God. Now, am I correct in thinking that traditionally the emperor is regarded as divine?
Yes.
And the end of World War II was the first time most Japanese citizens heard the emperor's voice, and he appeared as like a human being. He used to show up on his white horse in parades, but he didn't interact with the population, and other than ceremonial, and he never spoke because he was God, right? And that was part of the deal at the end of the war, was that he was sort of pushed aside, not completely eliminated. They kept the position of emperor, but the power was taken. This sounds like something Victorian, something a rich landed aristocratic English guy would do in about 1830, because he didn't have to work for a living and he didn't really care about anybody that wasn't another rich aristocratic English guy. So they did things like classify insects and study the ancient Greek plays, and oh my God.
A side note, it's a change compared to his father was doing. Isahito's father, Crown Prince Akishino, him, it's a little bit different. He dedicated his life regarding learning and expertise on the subject of chickens. So
And his son can't do that because, bird flu. Oh
so he moved from, the dad was studying chickens for his whole life, and Isahito will be focusing on dragonflies. That was quite interesting, wasn't it?
You're pulling my leg about this, right? This is a joke inside of a joke, right?
No, this is real. Like, this is CNN.
Oh, well, that's a joke inside of a joke, but that's all. Other thing. It would be hilarious if it weren't so horrifying that somebody has the international stage and the ability to open people's eyes, educate people, bring about a certain amount of change, and this is how they use the position.
Well, at least he won't be accused of being involved in politics or economy.
Well, he's interested in growing things. How about food production? Because that's going to be a gigantic issue with climate change. I don't know. I can't even. Thank you, Nate. And I mean no disrespect to the people and traditions of Japan. I need to say this. I am an equal opportunity disdainer of people who claim nobility. Nobody's DNA is better than anybody else's DNA. By virtue of your birth and who you are related to does not make you a better or worse person. And you don't deserve, you're not inherently deserving of respect and comfort, fancy living. Don't even get me.
And no disrespect for biologists who study insects or chickens or.
No.
There's nothing wrong. It's just because he's the emperor, and so you would expect, but it's the tradition. There's also, we're not going to have time to discuss that, but an interesting discussion about why there couldn't be an empress.
Oh, that's good for several hours of discussion.
Yes.
Yeah.
But before you bring your own topics, if you go on my channel, there's a whole discussion, a live video with a person from Japan.
It was really good, yeah.
And actually, we did discuss the empress versus emperor thing. So just,
is it popular with the ordinary people still? Do they have a certain level of, like, there are royalists in England who cling to that institution?
I mean, obviously, I'm not an expert, but I've gathered that that's not answering your question, but a large portion of the population was more open to have an empress.
So they're kind of moving away from a lot of that's interesting.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I found two stories side by side in the paper, because they're somewhat related to each other. And the first one is really not funny, but I found it significant. So I thought I would briefly mention it, and it's about pet health insurance. And I was horrified because it's the same as human health insurance, only worse. And we all know what a monolithic, amoral entity the insurance corporate entity is. It's just awful, right? It's all about putting money in their own pocket. And so this very, very quickly, they're claiming, well, you know, you pet owners are having to pay thousands of dollars for your pet health. And I'm thinking only because greedy providers are charging thousands of dollars because they're being bilked by drug companies and medical supply companies. And it's just this vicious chain of greed and lack of care. So it always ends, the buck always ends with the ordinary citizen. Now, if you want to have a pet, they're going to shame you into getting insurance. They also have this thing where they really want you to use this certain kind of credit card. Because of course they do, right? So it's thousands of dollars being spent. It talks about this woman whose Great Dane was sick and all the money she spent and how grateful she is that she got insurance. But there are some highlights. And one of the things was the deductibles are enormous, thousands of dollars deductible after you've paid for it every month, right? Also, you have to pay up front and then maybe you'll get reimbursed. Also, some employers are offering pet insurance as a perk. Yeah. But you pay extra for it. Of course, it's not free. But also, and this is the part that jumped out at me, they won't cover pre-existing conditions. And if you go in with your dog that's choking and you tell them that your dog was coughing yesterday, that's a pre-existing condition and it won't cover it. Yeah, yeah. And also you can now for your pet buy wellness packages that include diagnostic yearly, well baby checkups, well puppy checkups. You take your dog in or your cat or whatever. And I have a lot of pets. We've always had a lot of pets. I'm absolutely not anti-pet ownership, but I can't afford medical care for myself. Who are they kidding? I couldn't believe it.
I know.
That's just, I'm ranting. I know that. I'm
Yep,
sorry.
yep.
I just can't. So then in a related story, and this is funny, and then we'll end because we were short on funny stories this week. In Brazil, I thought this might interest you. They just had, they're having Carnival.
Yep.
Right? They just had the Rio Blocao. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it properly, which in Portuguese, right? Portuguese is dog party. They have a street party for pet owners. People bring their dogs. They had over 100 people. I'm sorry, over 100 dogs, over 300 people, which I thought was interesting. So the dogs brought their mother and their father and their sibling, I guess. And the dogs are dressed up in costumes of superheroes, clowns, cartoons. They talked about this one Chihuahua that was dressed like a princess. And they walk around and visit with the other dogs and everything. And because it's been really hot, they provide a hydration station. They have bowls of water for the dogs. And also they changed the route. They have a parade and they changed the route because the ground was hot on the dogs' paws. And this is the only event, it's every year for Carnival, and it's the only event in Brazil that was not canceled during the pandemic.
Oh, interesting. Well, have you not? So when I was living in the US, in California, we were doing the Halloween pet parade. Have you seen any of those?
No, but I've seen the yearly blessing of the animals.
Oh.
because I grew up in Southern California. I grew up in Santa Barbara,
Oh yeah.
and it was a tradition at the mission. And I think it went all the way back to the Spanish, who enslaved the native people, the indigenous people, to build the mission. But that's another story. And every year they would have Saint somebody, I forget who the saint was, and people would bring their pets, and there'd be huge attendance. People brought horses and snakes and just everything, and had them blessed, so that
I
they
like
wouldn't have to
the
buy pet insurance.
I love the Halloween pet parade. They were dressed for Halloween.
In
Yeah.
costumes. Yeah, I saw a video the other day, because this is how desperate I am. I've started watching cute animal videos so that I don't entirely lose my mind. And there was one hilarious one. It was a Great Dane and a little teeny tiny dog. I don't know what kind of dog it was, but the little teeny tiny dog had a spider costume on, so that there were these legs. It was just, all you could see was the body. You couldn't even tell it was a little dog. And then these hairy, gigantic spider legs. And the little dog was trying to play with the Great Dane, and the Great Dane was terrified because there was something really wrong with this. It was very funny. Yeah, that's what I'm reduced to.
Well,
I know,
I'm-
you're speechless. I know. Well, that's all I have. How about you? Is that all you have?
that's all I mean, because I did my essay, my dissertation, my pop quiz. I felt like it's definitely an A+ week.
Oh, next week there's going to be a test on dragonflies. Okay, so we're going to say goodbye, and then we're going to go behind the paywall, and we're going to do current events.
All right. See you
All
there.
right. Thank you, everybody. Slán go fóill. Sláinte.